Welcome to Minute with Myers. I'm Pastor Ed Myers, and I'm sure you've noticed that virtual people, and what I mean is people that we may know in real life or are acquainted with in real life, but when we see them on social media, those virtual people are near perfect people. They win most of the time, they get promoted all the time, they eat amazing meals, and they have perfect pets. What you don't see is when they lose or when they burn dinner, or when those pets poop and pee on the carpet inside the house. What we see, though, and what we tend to value are outcomes. Our society values the outcomes, so people tell us when they do well. We see when people do well. I'm a Nashville Predators fan, and when I miss a game, one of the first things I do is I turn on the radio or pop open my phone and look up to see not if they played well, but if they won or if they lost. We live in a society that puts so much pressure on outcomes. We ask things like, did you win? Did you get the promotion? Did you pass the certification test? How did you do? Even of our friends, sometimes the first things we ask are for the outcomes, not how was the process. But here's the thing, in the COVID-19 lesson that I am relearning once again, and it's one that I've had to relearn all my life, is that relationships matter more than outcomes. You see, I grew up playing sports, and so I measure things in wins and losses naturally, and we live in a society that values that. But what is more important? The relationship is always more important than the outcome. Is it more important to be is it more important to be right, or is it more important to remain in relationship and loving and caring for each other? When I think of relationships in the Bible, I think first and foremost of Ruth and Naomi, how Ruth went with Naomi, not knowing what the outcome would be. If you want to read that, it's the book of Ruth. It's a quick read, it's short, but Ruth wasn't worried about the outcome. She was worried and involved and cared most about the relationship with her mother in law, Naomi. Now, here's the amazing thing, when we invest in those relationships that God has given us, amazing things happen. You see, Ruth married a guy named Boaz, and they had a child named Obed, who had a child named Jesse, who had a child named David. She's the great grandmother of that guy that went on to be in the Bible known as King David. So there was an eventual outcome that Ruth never lived to see. But even more importantly, she lived an amazing life because she focused on relationships. If there's anything the virus is teaching us, it's how important the relationships are. Why are we anxious? It's not just because of outcomes, it's because we fear for people we know and love and our neighbors and our community. And it reminds us, and that reminder right there, that's the lesson, is that the relationships we have are what's most important, not the outcomes.